All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Today is March 8th, recording this video after the market close on Friday. Hope you guys had a fantastic week and I'm very pleased with our trades over the course of the week. Most of our gains this week, guys, has been really just overnight swings. In particular, we caught a massive run from 826 to 950 on NVDA. We swung SPY calls pretty much every night of this week, and it all just paid out very well. You know, even with the NFP data this morning, even with the other pieces of data throughout the week, the market performed really well. So the question now is, well, we got our target hit this week. Number one, our downside target was 508 this week. We actually went much lower to 505. In addition to that, our upside target was 515 when we went to 518, nearly 5,200 on the S&P 500 index until, guess what, folks? NVIDIA had to pull back today. So NVIDIA down over 5% today. It hit about 974 intraday, so pulled back nearly 100 points. And you can see the damage that it has done with the market, right? To the market, 518, 5,200 SPX. With that NVIDIA pullback, it took SPX all the way back down under to 5123 close. So therefore, you have a slight red week on the index, very slight. So we could just say it's a doji week, it's a flat week, but definitely the Q had some suffering to do at the end of this week, right back to the $439 level. And so this is the question that we pose in our group is that, all right, well, how long can NVIDIA sustain as the market leader? And when it dumps, what other stocks can take place? Is it going to be Apple? Well, not really. I mean, Apple tried today. Apple was actually green for the first time in many days. And we'll show you the charts. And it actually hit about 173. It didn't fill the gap, the upside gap that we wanted to, and it pulled back to 170. So Apple's trying to create a base here. We look at AMD. Let's just jump right into the charts, and I'll show you guys what we've been watching. All right, so here's the AMD call that we put out, and the upside target was AMD was actually 220. So it went to 227 today and rejected this daily trend line. If we take a look at NVIDIA, our upside target was 944, and it hit, and it actually went way above beyond that. But look what happened right after it hit this trend line here at 964, went a little bit beyond that and just tanked. Okay, so if this market is to continue moving up, obviously we need good data, and we're talking about CPI in a moment. But you need something to replace NVIDIA, or you need Apple to continue to pull the weight of the market. But does this mean that NVIDIA is done with? No, not really. Look at this, right? We just follow this trend line here, and if we kind of map this out for NVIDIA, all right, we're looking at a potential support 864, and that's what I'm waiting for, guys. That is the actual number that I would like to get back into NVIDIA. And the reason is because that's a number one trend line, and that's also the gap fill on NVIDIA. So you see that it wicked down from that trend line, and it didn't fill the gap here. It could go probably much lower to 822, fill this gap as well if we really get a kind of a bloody Mondays to start off next week. So I'm looking for NVIDIA target about 864 or more like 850 to get back in. Because obviously NVIDIA needs to cool off for a bit. The 4-hour stochastic is coming down, and that's a really positive sign. All right, so it's actually really good that this happened, so we can get back long. Now, going into SPY, before I do that, all right, major week next week coming up. Okay, so Monday is going to be your some bill auctions, no other data. Tuesday, Thursday is going to be important. All right, CPI and also PPI data. So these are key inflation data. It's going to move the market in a big way, especially where we're at currently with the index. So we started Monday hitting 513. All right, we made a higher high on just 3 days later on Thursday, and then went to subsequently 518. So once we popped over this trend line, it actually gapped down, reset, all right, and tried again, higher high. So I mean, nothing super bearish here, guys, even though the index is down today or flat on the week. But look at this. You have 4 days of higher lows and higher highs. And that was the perfect combination for some of our plays that we had this week. So I'm going to give you guys a downside target. All right. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, I think we're going down a little bit more on Monday. And I want the market to go down actually on Monday ahead of the CPI. It makes buying calls a little bit easier. And I'll tell you why, is that SPX over the course of this week has created multiple gaps. Okay. So we know that there's this gap down here to, under 498. 4,098. That's going to be SPY 497. I'm not very concerned about that gap, but I am concerned about these two immediate gaps that we want to get filled. Number one is 5109. So that's right about the 509 level. All right. And then there's a gap at the 507 level, 5080 SPX. I want to, this would be a great setup to, going into Tuesday CPI data, is that we watch these gaps get filled, or at least one of them. You might probably find 510 as support, and that would be a potential good dip buy. If we are red on Monday, my plan is to buy the red on Monday with hedges going into the CPI data. If we go back to, if we pump back to 514, 515 on Monday, then I'm going to buy more hedges versus calls. Why? Because I'm not very, I think the CPI data is not going to be as bad as feared. But I think also at the same time, the weight of the market with NVIDIA and all that, even with maybe just inline data, the market can pull back down anyway. So if you remember PCE data, we had that 4 hour, if you guys were part of our group, all right, we on March 5th, March 6th, they reset the 4 hour stochastic, if you guys remember that. And that was our favorite play. Once it gets reset, let's run it back up. And PC was not as bad on Friday last week. PC was not as bad as everyone feared. So what? The market made new highs this week, guys. Okay. So what I like to see, again, is we pull back, go fill those gaps, reset this 4 hour stochastic on Monday, and then CPI data should be very, very interesting. All right. So with that said, all right, let's go back to the SPY daily. We'll take a look at those trend lines like so. So we have the 20-day moving average down here at 505. I'm not even going to get that crazy. But what I'd like to see is a nice fake out on Monday. All right. The gap down, fake out, get the bears chase into 508. All right. So our downside target this week is 508 once again. Last week was 508. This week's going to be 508, because at 508, we can at least fill a SPX gap. All right. And then I'm going to add an upside target. Guess what, guys? We're going right back to 515. I'm sorry, 518. Okay. Once that data comes in pretty soft, actually, I'm going to lower it to 515, actually. Okay. So I think we're going to trade this range this week. We're at about 515 to 508. Right now, if you look at this chart, all right, we mentioned this to all of our members. Listen, every time you have a red engulfing day, it gets met with higher highs. And it actually proved true once again on Tuesday. All right, Tuesday, red engulfing day, higher highs 3 days later. All right, 3 consecutive green days on the index. So if that continues to hold true, then yeah, okay, let's wick down to 508, fill some gaps, and then wait for CPI data. All right. So I'm going to put an upside target of 515, 508, 515 upside target, downside target of 508, 508.37. What we need, though, like I said, if the market's going to continue, is that you need some a reset on the NVIDIAs. All right. So 4 hour chart, you can take a look here. It's coming right back down, 4 hour reset. All right. So look what happened when it did this back in, excuse me, February 29th, and went on a 2.5 week run, guys. All right. So I'm watching that stochastic next week on NVIDIA. All right. So that's the update. You know, we can talk about Apple, I think, here while we're here. All right. So Apple, I mean, this is it's wicking off, all right, the wicked off the gap fill. All right. Almost gap fill, but it missed by like a dime. This doesn't look bearish, by the way. All right. You're likely to see a continuation of Apple on Monday. All right. Or Apple Monday, Tuesday. You have the stochastics on the floor starting to curl. You got good volume on Apple today. All right. So this, if NVIDIA consolidates for a few days, or AMD, or some of the other mega caps, you can expect Apple to pick up some slack over the next over the next week. Another major one to watch is Google. All right, Google gapped up. All right, and also almost hit the 100-day moving average. Flat out rejected. All right, there it is. Okay, that's not bearish. It closed above the 200-day with the stochastics on the floor and the MACD trying to curl. So this is positive sign for Google and Apple going into next week. So those will be our major watches for me anyway, going into next week. So again, my downside target for SPY would be 508, and we're going to shoot right back to 515. Hope you guys have a great weekend. See you